So here is a little demonstration video about how being aware of organic shapes can help you draw. I'm also going to talk a little bit about color, about using color realistically in artwork, and I'll be talking a little bit about using pastels. I'm aware that many people probably don't have color media available to them. Most people probably don't have pastels, and that is just fine. If you do have those things available to you, and this is something that you'd like to practice, the things that I'm talking about do apply to not just pastel, but any color medium. It's a way of thinking about the color that you see. However, if you just are, if you're working just with pen or with pencil, that's just fine. If that's the case, just focus on the shape. Really focus on the shape and try to get the shape as accurate as you can. So I am going to use oil pastel. These are my oil pastels here. And oil pastel really works best on drawing paper. This is copy paper. Copy paper has very little tooth. Tooth is like little bumpiness that holds on to softer art materials. This drawing paper here has more tooth. It's a heavier weight paper. And if you look closely at it, you can see it has more texture. That texture will help hold on to the very soft oil pastel as I apply it. So the first thing to do here, no matter what medium you're working in, is to look very carefully at the shape of the fruit. So what I want to do is I want to start drawing lightly with pencil and try to really observe the shape as I truly see it, trying to block from my mind preconceived ideas about what shape I think I should see, trying to really record what I'm actually viewing here. The actual angle of this curved line, how far it goes, before it curves back up again. I could even take some measurements. I could measure how big is the stem part compared to the rest of the fruit. 1, 2, 3. I see about 3.5 stems from here to here. So according to that measurement, my stem is much too small proportionally. I can tell before I even measure. How about now? 1, 2, 3. That seems better. I could consider how high this end is compared to the other end. I'm noticing that this end comes up to about the same height as where the stem connects with the other end of the fruit. So I'm drawing lightly. I'm making sort of tentative lines to begin with. I'm not really sure if these lines are correct or not yet. And so I'm drawing them very lightly so that I'll be able to erase them later. I feel dissatisfied with how my shadow is falling across the drawing. I'm sorry about that, y'all. The lighting is something I'm still working on here. So if we're drawing with oil pastel or any type of pastel, you really actually don't want to put too much pencil down because the pencil will start to get mixed in with the pastel as you add it. Just enough to get an idea of the basic contours of the fruit. The next thing to do is put down the local color. By local color, we mean what color would you say this object is if I ask you what color is it? Obviously, it's a banana. You would say yellow. So I'm going to start by putting the local color all over. You can see there my pencil is getting dragged into my pastel a bit. As a matter of fact, I'm going to erase just a bit of the pencil. So I've colored the banana yellow, but when you look at the banana on the paper and the banana in real life, you can tell that the banana in real life is much more nuanced in color than the banana on the paper. So now it's time to take a look at some of those changes in color that make this banana this banana. So one thing that's happening is that this banana is a little bit on the greener side. I love a banana with a little bit of green on it. This one's going to be delicious. So I want to look at where I see that green and make some adjustments to this color to make that a bit more green. So I'm just gently blending in a little bit of green where I see it. My eye is traveling very quickly back and forth between here and here so that I can be accurate about where I'm putting in the green that I see. And right now, it's not well blended. This banana's starting to look furry, but I'm not worried about that right now. I'll go back over it with the yellow at the end to bring that all together. And then there are some parts that are in shadow. From where I'm looking, I can see a bit of shadow over on that side. There's also a bit of shadow right along the bottom. To make the shadow of any color, it works best usually to add a bit of the complement. Straight across from yellow on the color wheel is blue. So purple is the complement of blue. I don't actually have a purple pastel here, but I know that red and blue together make purple. So I'll add just a little bit of that anywhere I see a bit of a shadowy part. So over here on this edge of the banana, a bit of a shadow. Down here on the bottom, there's a bit of a shadow. As a matter of fact, I think I'll put a bit of a cast shadow here underneath it. There is a shadow that's falling onto the table, and I'm trying to look at what I see of that shadow on the table. Cast shadows often have diffused edges. They kind of fade out on the edge. Let me put some blue. Blue is a very strong pigment in almost any medium, so I just want to add very, very small amounts of blue. It also gets a bit brownish up here in the stem, so I'm going to add some of this complement up here to the stem as well. There are a few spots in this banana that are very dark, like brown or black, especially this little nub at the end. You might notice that I'm waiting until the very, very last step to add any bit of black. Anytime you're working with pastel, it's true with a lot of media, you really want to wait until the very end to add any kind of super dark color. So at the very end, I'll come in and I'll put in those very darkest spots, but not until that very end step. Usually there's a real dark shadow right at the bottom of any object that's sitting on a table like this. So now I'm going to come back with this local color and do some blending. Something that's useful to know about pastels, but sometimes they get dirty. You pick up little bits of color on the end, and you can clean off a pastel by turning your paper over and just getting out the dirty bits. So as I go back over with this local color now, you can see that it's blending in some of those little bits that I added. This red is sort of not becoming completely blended. If I wanted it to become completely blended, I could go back over it with a little bit more purple and then a little more yellow. I kind of like those little red bits showing us through right now, though. A bit of a happy accident. So I'm just kind of going over the whole thing. Something that happens with a soft medium like oil pastel is that you'll eventually run out of tooth. Even with this good drawing paper that I have, I'll get to a point where I really just can't add any more pastel to the paper. The paper just won't hold on to anymore. And that is what it is. When you get to that point, if you're dissatisfied with your drawing, in some ways, sometimes you just have to kind of start over. Not a medium that you can easily remove. right, so I think I'm just about done here. This is not a super tidy drawing. It's a bit rough looking and messy, but I like it that way right now, so I'm going to keep it that way. So now I'm going to come in with the black oil pastel and with this darker brown and put in these little dark spots that I see now that I'm satisfied with the rest. I see some darkness up here. I see this little brown spot over here. Bit of a brown line here. Little tiny bruise over here. I could blend this with my finger right now. I was once told that real pastel artists never use their finger. They do it like this. I don't know if that's really true. I'm a believer that you should do whatever needs to be done to make your art the way you want it. So I'm really looking at the shape that I see at the end of this banana here. It's a bit like a hexagon or something, but also a bit more of an organic shape. There we have it. I guess that's my banana drawing. Have fun drawing yourself. If this is something that you enjoy, the way to become good at anything in art is practice.